why? Why do God believers continue to say such stupid things? We're in the second millennium of the Common Era, and still there are grown adults who think that gods are real and that not accepting sky wizards is a dumb position. Here is another collection of videos of theists saying stupid things, and the last guy, well, I'm not entirely sure he knows what he's saying. Hello, I'm the Skeptic, the British floating circle that watches people make extraordinary claims and then I explain why I don't accept what they're saying. Whether it's atheists being idiots for not believing in magic sky people, or there being absolute proof of a god, there are folks out there that think they're being clever when in fact they have really dumb things to say about what they don't understand and think they have smart things to say about what they believe is real. And I like to look at those things and facepalm pretty hard. It's time to hear theists saying stupid things, but before we hear of another load of silly, if this isn't your first Skeptic video, hit the like, the subscribe and the bell, and perhaps that silly old algorithm can start getting our suggestions right. And a super thanks to those that hit super thanks in some recent videos: Kevin, Daniel Kevin and Wicked Pisser. And a big thank you to channel members who get access to Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe and more hen emojis. Lisa the Rainbow Giraffe bestows leaves upon you all. More hen. Well, we may as well kick this off with some absolute proof of a god, right?
Sure. So, let me give you a hypothetical example, and I always say, ask this question. Do you believe that something can come from absolute nothingness? Like, there's no energy, no matter, no space, no quanta, just there's absolute nothingness.
How do you know there was nothingness before there was somethingness? I don't know any non-believers in gods thinking there was ever a time that there was a nothing.
Can anything come from that? No. So you cannot have something from nothing. We have a universe that has a starting point.
We have a starting point from which that which we can observe came to be. But outside of that, was there already something else?
And that starting point with matter and energy. Matter and energy is not conscious. It cannot compress itself. It cannot expand itself.
No. But matter can do what matter does best and adhere to the fundamentals of physics.
So that would require an external cause. Would you agree?
No, I don't agree. Cause can mean something external. I much prefer explanation, which again, and I'm obviously no expert, physics can probably help us all out there.
By necessity, right? Yeah. So whatever the external cause is, now look at what it did. It compressed the whole universe into a singularity.
At least. Well, that's what science's current and best understanding is.
Something that is minutely small, we can't even imagine it. And then expanded everything. And then matter and energy comes into existence. Then you have atoms starts to exist millions of years after the universe.
I don't know. Doesn't a singularity consist of matter since it's infinitely dense?
You have very precise, minute measurements for everything. Electromagnetic waves, you have galaxies, stars. We're talking about being precise to the decimal places, right? Very, very specific numbers. There's a book written by Martin Rees called 6 Numbers. Shows you how intricate and detailed the universe is. If one number was different, the universe will not exist.
As it is now, it might just look slightly different, maybe. It might not have folks making up stories of creators. Oh man, how I wish that number was different.
And then on top of that, life would not exist. That's even something called fine-tuning, which is even more complication, right?
Oh, look, this guy's a puddle.
For you to have life in the universe. Now, can any of that happen without an intelligent being behind it?
Yes, because it has happened, and there's nothing to suggest that there is an intelligent being behind it, other than you not understanding how there could be anything without an intelligent being behind it. It's funny how you accept what science says about singularities and expansion, but then need to shoehorn in something that gives you comfort.
The universe is full of atoms. You know, an atom, if you split it, you have a nuclear explosion. It has a magnificent amount of energy in it. Splitting one atom would not cause a nuclear explosion. You need to split tons of atoms to get a chain reaction powerful enough to cause that kind of reaction. So whatever brought that into existence, I would say by necessity, requires knowledge, requires power that we can't even comprehend of. And yet, he's here comprehending it. So suddenly, it can't exist. And brings time and space into existence, because time and space continues, we live it. Starts with the universe. Does it? Or was space just always there? And is time just what we use to describe the changing of things through aging? And then you have the creator being independent of it. Whoever brought the universe or created it. So Would you agree that it's rational then to say there has to be something with these characteristics that create the universe? Yes.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, so we would say is like the existence of God is a reality from that aspect, right? Just like this table cannot exist without creator that creates it, right? Cannot just pop into existence by itself, right?
Yeah.
Now what about...
It's got to come from somewhere.
Yes, exactly, yes.
And that might be better explained as, I don't know, or just basic physics. If it was a god, how do you know it was your god and not just the cosmic rainbow deity, Lisa the rainbow giraffe, leaf be upon her, farting the universe into existence? What a joke. Next.
Ever notice how we all believe in right and wrong? That's actually proof of God. Did you know that? If there's no God, then morality is just a personal preference, right?
Lady, right and wrong in Godland is just the personal preference of the god. And in some cases, demonstrably wrong, even though the god tells biblical folks to do it. Killing babies, raping, slavery. It's funny how the men of old maybe wanted to do those things and then concocted a god who they probably could use as a scapegoat.
But we know things like murder and injustice are objectively wrong. So where does that standard come from? Well, the answer is God. Can morality exist without God? I don't think so, but I'm open to hearing your point of view.
I don't think so. Since I don't believe in a god and I don't need a god to tell me not to end lives and cause injustice. But maybe that's because I have basic empathy and understand what would benefit me so that perhaps may benefit others. It's not hard, love. Next.
I'm Daryl X. Welcome to my channel. I want to talk about why atheists deny irreducible complexity. Now, Psalm 139:14 says, I am fearfully and wonderfully made, marvellous are thy works, and my soul knows that very well, that I am fearfully and wonderfully made. It's in the Bible.
Oh, goody. Daryl X again. And he's a car theist this time, kicking off with a Bible verse. Sorry, Daryl, when it comes to the Bible...
No one cares!
And irreducible complexity is proof of that. And one example is when we swallow or breathe, we have two pipes going connected to our throat, one going to our lungs, one going to our stomach. That's how you breathe. You breathe air through your mouth. So why doesn't your food go into your lungs? Because every time you swallow, a lid closes, a hatch closes, so the food goes down to the back passage instead of the front.
Every time? So no one ever chokes. It's funny that you're talking about a back passage too.
Through your lungs, and we've all been talking or laughing or whatever or eating, and it's gone into our lungs, and it's horrible. When you cough, it can be dangerous if it doesn't go in there. If it goes, a lot goes in there, you can get pneumonia. There's a special kind of pneumonia that's caused by food going into your lungs. But this is an irreducibly complex process, because how can we have to breathe and we have to eat? So which form first, out the lungs or the stomach?
The stomach? Fish have stomachs but no lungs. And life came from the seas. Easy.
Because they're both working together, and the only thing that separates them is this little hatch that happens when you swallow.
Which, if a god designed that thing is an idiot. How hard could it be to have pipes that are completely separated with no choking hazard, and not just relying on a flap that doesn't even have a 100% success rate? Almost 5,000 people die from choking in the USA each year alone.
So it couldn't have always been there, right? So maybe it evolved? Did we just live on air until somehow that hatch formed, and then we started to form another pipe that went to our stomach? No, it's all irreducibly complex. It's proof that evolution can't happen. Something like this, simple thing like this can't evolve gradually. So every time, atheists, you eat food, swallow, or breathe, I want you to understand that irreducible complexity is making all that possible. Irreducible complexity is stopping the food from going into your lungs.
Except when it doesn't. So in those cases, it must be evolution's fault.
Simply through a little hatch that closes when you swallow. And that can't happen gradually, because there couldn't have been a time when we didn't have it, because then food would have went into our lungs and oxygen would have went into our stomach and stuff. It wouldn't have worked out. We would have died. So it's just one small example of irreducible complexity. Why do atheists deny irreducible complexity? Because it disproves evolution.
Well, it doesn't. It may have formed at the same time as the lungs, but even so, disproving evolution doesn't suddenly prove a god. There are believers in gods that accept evolution, and there may well be non-believers in gods that don't accept that which has the most evidence to back up the scientific theory.
So they deny it outright, and they mock it, and they joke. They use straw man and stuff like that and equivocate. And but the reality is, every time you eat or breathe, irreducible complexity is at work.
Apart from when it's not.
And there's no way to deny it. Because then you have to come up with a scenario where you could breathe before you could eat, or you could eat before you breathe.
Fish, insects.
But they both work simultaneously. And the only thing separating your lungs from your stomach is this hatch that closes when you swallow.
No, they don't work simultaneously. Try swallowing and breathing at the exact same time and see what happens to you. The epiglottis, or hatch, as you like to call it, would fail and you'd probably choke, maybe to death.
So there you have it. I want you atheists to... I know it's hard to swallow because you're an atheist and you don't want to admit that evolution can't happen. But, you know, it amazes me. You say, oh, evolution's got nothing to do with atheism. Atheism's got nothing to do with evolution. They're two different things. Then why can't you agree that evolution isn't possible?
Because whilst I don't believe in any gods, I also see no reason to accept that evolution is impossible. You could remove either half of that sentence and each statement would still hold true.
Why can't you admit that irreducible complexity is at work all the time in our bodies?
Because I see no reason to accept that.
If atheism and evolution doesn't need each other, why? You know, you just live in denial.
Nah. I live in the north of Kentucky.
You can't admit the truth. You can't admit the problems with evolution, and these problems are never discussed at school. They don't say, they say, look at the similarities between a man and a monkey. See, how can you deny evolution? Well, wait a minute. What about irreducible complexity? What about when we swallow? What evolved first? No, man. You're a religious crazy fool. Or whatever. I mean, see, that's equivocation. That's straw man. You say it's science, but science will accept evidence against a theory or an idea or a belief. But you can't, atheist, because you need it. It's your security blanket.
Projection, Your Honour. The defendant clearly needs a god as a security blanket, but doesn't want to appear like he's a big baby, so projects security blanketism onto atheists.
Sustained.
But every time you eat, every time you breathe, I want you to remember that irreducible complexity is at work, and that disproves evolution every time you eat or breathe, even though it's impossible for you to swallow. Pardon the pun.
Crikey, mate, that was about as funny as going down on a dingo. Good try, I guess, but no wonga. Next.
So earlier today I had a guy who finally, he's an atheist, but he says he's not an atheist because he just wants to be contrary. So I want to talk about the type of person that most atheists are. Not only are they hostile and angry, they're also very, very argumentative. And even when they agree with you on something, they'll find a way to weasel out of it and turn it around. It's called Belligerance. And they are the most belligerent group of people I've ever seen in my entire life. So this guy makes a ridiculous comment on a video that I put up. It's irrelevant. But he's talking about... He wants to discuss 2 Samuel, where David chooses to sin, chooses with free will to make bad decisions, and bad things happen.
Sounds really belligerent.
Bad things happen to people that make bad decisions. And I likened it to like drunk driving. You have the free will to drive sober or drunk. You choose to drive drunk, somebody dies. It may be a child. A child dies.
And I guess that the child had the free will to die that day by being hit by a drunk driver.
And so the atheist plight about, what did a child do? Did a child sin? What sin did a little kid make to deserve to die?
Sounds like you're making up an argument here. I don't know anyone that would seriously say that.
Innocents die because of people's bad decisions. Free will to do wrong can cause a bad, and that's a bad day when you kill a child. Anybody, really, but a child is really bad. That's a bad day. You, free will, chose to make a decision that cost somebody their life. It has nothing to do with what the child did. It has to do with what you did and the consequences of your decision. This guy agreed with that when I talked about drunk driving. And within a few minutes, completely flipped it around and denied. Well, it's in writing. You agreed to it. Now you're denying it. He ran around in circles. He tried to flip the tables. And I said, I'm not going to speak to you again until you admit that of what you're doing and being belligerent. And man up, or I'm not speaking to you again.
How belligerent of you.
And then, what about this? What about that? What about this? I said, I'm not speaking to you. What about this? What about that? I finally blocked him. I don't have time for it. I'm not your babysitter. I'm not going to play with a toddler. And of course, he's going to say, this guy wouldn't answer my questions. He wouldn't respond to me. He wouldn't talk to me. He ignored me the whole time. I have screenshots of the whole stinking message.
That doesn't mean anything. I have screenshots of plenty of stuff. Maybe you should show them and we can see for ourselves.
So, guess what? And all the comments, my comments and his comments. He started deleting his comments. He says he didn't. Where are they? Anyway, and then of course he tries to blame me that I'm deleting his comments. Well, they all got deleted when I booted them, but not before. Just a typical ignat, stupid behavior of atheists and denying their own words. It's in writing. Of course he deleted those because then they're not in writing anymore. I got them on screenshots, you stupid.
So here we just have a story of your interaction with an atheist. And what is it supposed to demonstrate?
Anyway, so that's perfect. If you're a theist out there and you're dealing with atheists, take screenshots because these dinkuses will do all kinds of games. The other night I had one, Cygnus Istus. He is one of the stupidest people I've ever met in my life. I haven't met him, but I mean online. And I've seen him do debates. He always says he wins. He loses every debate with a theist. I mean, landslide loss. So he's a legend in his own head. He thinks he's winning. He doesn't think he's winning. He says he's winning, but he's not. He's a total dinkus. Same thing with him. Same type of conversation, and then he deletes all of his comments and only has my replies there and then says to me, look, you're talking to yourself. How foolish do you look? Booted. I don't have time for it. You're toddlers. You act like toddlers. Not all of you are. I'm not generalizing. I'm not saying you're all like that.
Oh, no. I like to act childish sometimes. Makes life a bit more fun for me.
But the ones that are done, I'm not going to do it. I'm not your babysitter. I'm not your daddy. I'm not your mental health counselor. Go get help. You need help. These type of people are belligerent little toddlers. And then they cry wolf. He wouldn't respond to me. He wouldn't talk to me. Bull crap. That's lies. Bold-faced lies. He denied the fact that he ever agreed with me on the premise that people choose to make stupid decisions and innocents die. He agreed to it.
Well, yeah, idiots do that. But what is it supposed to prove? Get to the point, Unc.
And then he backed out. That's really stupid. How am I supposed to take somebody like that serious? Answer that.
By listening to what they have to say and trying to understand their point of view. Not once in that whole spiel did it sound like you had a rebuttal that could make a guy think about their position. You just cried about wordplay. So what? Next. No. Let me show you what I think happens when I die. Yeah, see? Nothing fancy. I'll be the same as I was before I was born. Non-existent. The only difference is that some folks may remember me and can talk about the cool things I did when I was alive. Next.
Jesus is coming soon, but what is that supposed to do inside your life? That's supposed to get you prepared in Christ by turning to him with all of your heart. What's the use of you knowing that he's coming soon and you're not even on his word, prayer, worship daily? You're not even having a daily relationship with the Lord. The reason why he tells you this is to let you know, take it very seriously. He's coming soon for his bride. Are you that bride? Yes, if you truly turn to Jesus and seek him with all of your heart. Subscribe and follow for more.
What now? Jeebus is going to make you his bride? Some of those words didn't make sense, my man, but it looks too crisp to be AI. So are we witnessing a devolution in mankind where those that believe in gods can no longer communicate effectively? I sure hope not. That would suck. But if Jesus is coming, I'll be there with a warm towel and a bucket. Since he's been supposedly gone for so long, those balls will be sloshing. And would you look at that? Another bunch of silly that doesn't get get us anywhere, other than some whining complainers who just don't like that their God is irrelevant when there are perfectly acceptable explanations out there already. Maybe next time there'll be one theist that doesn't say a stupid thing and has something that really makes you think. But maybe there was something here that made you question your non-belief. Let me know in the section below. I'm going to skeptic this as more stupidity batted away. A big thank you to this month's top level ticks on Patreon: Dark Ether Piao, Tamo, The Barely Bearable Atheist, George, Godless Granny, Addy Rocker, The Enixes, Jakari, Elizabeth, Whiskey Tech Fred, Rick and Stylistic Matthew, as well as all the $3 base ticks and channel members. You can become a supporter on Patreon too at patreon.com/theskeptic. The link is in the description, along with links to all my other socials, or become a member by hitting the join button below this video. Don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe if you haven't already. From me, the Skeptic, stay safe, keep thinking logically and ask questions. Skepticism is the first step towards truth. See you next Saturday.